From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Top of the morning, security gang. Welcome to another episode of the CyberHub Podcast. It's European Labor Day, May 1st. But for none, I missed y'all. I did 9 days on vacation. I'm a bit more tan thanks to the sunny shores of South Florida and Miami. It was a great time to be away. I really needed that decompression, as many would argue. Good vacation. I missed y'all. I missed doing the show. I was itching getting ready for this morning, getting ready to bring this broadcast on. And so we've got a lot to talk about on this morning's show. Good morning to Matt and everyone else tuning in on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, X, Instagram, Rumble. Thank you all for being here. Everyone listening on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere else. Thank you so much for all the love and all the messages of, hey, what's going on? And I was like, hey, I told you I was taking a break and we were going to have some people guest host, and it ended up not kind of working out logistically. And so we just kind of silence, which in some days, especially considering the current environment, is a good thing. So without further ado, my studio is still getting renovated. That's why I am where I am, not in my studio, even though I am home, because my studio is still under renovation. It won't be done for 2 more weeks. And so we've got 2 more weeks of these types of shows until we get into our new revamped, amazing studio that's just going to be stellar for all of y'all. I can't wait for y'all to see it. And we're doing a little transformation video. It's really, really cool. All right, let's go ahead and get started. First of all, join me for a coffee cup cheers this morning. My double espresso, not in my usual clear cup, but still as good as always. Coffee cup cheers, y'all. So over break, I did do an article on Substack on the TikTok ban. Just, y'all know I'm an outspoken critic of TikTok. I'm concerned about what Congress is doing. I share some of those thoughts there. You can go check it out, jamesazar.substack.com. And now let's go ahead and get started on this morning's show. We've got a lot to talk about, including the attack that crippled U.S. healthcare systems for weeks. We're now getting a whole lot more information. United Health Group CEO Andrew Whitty is set to testify before Congress today. He's going to tell Congress that on February 12th, criminal used compromised credentials to remotely access a Change Healthcare Citrix portal, an application used to enable remote access to desktops. The portal didn't have MFA, according to the testimony available on the House Committee and Energy's Commerce website. Once the threat actor gained access, they moved laterally within the systems in a more sophisticated ways and exfiltrated data. Ransomware was deployed 9 days later. According to Whitty, a ransom was indeed paid in an effort to protect people's personal health information. However, Black Cat, as many of us know, pulled an exit, a scam, and one of the affiliates that was part of the Black Cat gang went back and used double extortion. It's unknown whether or not they paid for that double extortion at this time. Upon discovering the attack, the healthcare giant disconnected Change Healthcare systems from the internet, severely impacting numerous activities for thousands of pharmacies and hospitals across the U.S. The restoration began almost immediately, involved safely and securely rebuilding Change Healthcare's technology infrastructure from the ground up. So they say that on April 26th, the organization advanced more than $6.5 billion in advanced funding to thousands of providers. Last week, United Health Group disclosed costs of $872 million related to this ransomware attack. And we'll find out more today. Testimony is going to start here in about 20 or 30 minutes, I believe. And so we should be able to get a whole lot more today, and we'll talk about it a whole lot more tomorrow on the show. But we'll stick to healthcare, and Canadian pharmacy chain London Drugs, which is huge in Canada, has had to close down their stores due to a cyber attack over the weekend. On April 28th, London Drugs discovered that they were a victim of a cybersecurity incident. Out of an abundance of caution, they've closed all stores across Western Canada until further notice. So their Eastern coast and Midwest like Canada, big. Western Canada shut down. The rest of Canada, London Drugs is still operating there, which is great. It's fine. For now. They're saying that they do have an emergency staff available to do specific things, but the stores are not open and they'll only take in this on emergency aspects. This seems to be the hallmark of a ransomware attack, although not much has been given out since. This story is really trending this morning. A vulnerability in the R programming language implementation could be exploited to execute arbitrary code when a malicious RDS file is loaded and referenced, and could be used as part of a sophisticated supply chain attack, according to Hidden Layer. This is CVE 2024-27322. The issue was identified in R's serialization and deserialization process, which is used for creating and loading RDS files. An open source programming language, R supports data visualization, machine learning, and statistical computing. It's widely used for performing statistical analysis in finance, government, and healthcare. It's also popular within the AI and ML applications. It's also really popular in data science realms. Data scientists love R programming because of the way it visualizes the data they're working on. R has its own serialization format that is used when packages are saved and loaded. When a package is compiled, a .rdp file containing objects to be serialized and an RDX file containing metadata associated with these objects and their offsets are created. An attacker can create a promise object with an instruction that sets the variable to an unbound value and an expression containing arbitrary code. Due to lazy evaluation, the expression is evaluated and run only when the symbol associated with the RDF file is accessed, and the code will execute when the user reference symbol. So this is, again, something to take a look at. There's some great ways to enhance some best practices around it. I would totally recommend looking at the show notes, getting the link, studying this, and implementing it. A newly uncovered Chinese threat actor, also known as Muddling Meerkat, has been appearing to be linked to the Chinese government. They're actually scanning and DNS networks around the world for years, sending vast numbers of queries via open DNS resolvers, according to Infoblox. This appears to be linked to the Chinese government. The threat actor could control the Great Firewall of China, the nation's system for censoring and manipulating internet traffic entering and exiting the country. Active since 2019, the operation is like a slow drip attack, which are essentially distributed denial of service attacks, but the threat actor's goal doesn't appear to be DNS DDoSing, and its motivation and the goal remains to be unclear, although it's likely poking at something and it's really trying to adjust behavior. So one thing, if you've ever bought a security tool as a CISA, as any sort of practitioner, one of the key phases of any security tool implementation is what every security partner in the world will call learning mode. And in learning mode, it's studying the behavior in order to establish a baseline, in order to identify anomalies, because without that, technically, it wouldn't be able to identify anomalies. And in learning mode, if you're able to poke at your environment, and if you're a threat actor and you realize the tool's getting deployed because of whatever reasons, you've got access to email, you're seeing it, you're on the move. Well, in learning mode, you can poke in order to create a different type of learning curve and a different kind of regular behavior in order to never really interfere and be detected. And so China, known for its patience, known for its 100-year plan, you've got to know who your adversaries are, and our adversaries are patient adversaries. The Russian, the Iranian, and the Chinese operate on one virtue in a dictatorship that doesn't exist in a democracy. That's called patience. And so they use patience. They'll do these types of attacks for 4, 5, 10 years. And while we would think, wow, what a waste, in that time frame, they've established a new normal operating procedure. And so this could be one of those. I'm not saying it is, but I've educated myself on the Chinese adversary enough to understand that they would go and take low-level people and within the Chinese cyber army and have them do these types of attacks in order to really change the playing field, so that when they want to do something, by the time you pick it up, it's too late, because they've already established some sort of threshold, right, of what normal operation capacity could be. Keep that in mind when you're doing when you're looking at this kind of stuff and you're doing learning mode, that it does appear to be there. And most of the time, security partners can't really answer that. Speaking of China, this brings up the whole idea of CISA and the revised Presidential Policy Directive 21. This was initially established by President Trump in 2018. It's been extended by President Biden now twice. It's kind of revamped the CISA role, not really revamped it, because revamping CISA's role involves saying TSA, DOE, no one else touches cyber. CISA controls cyber. All of these departments have a liaison that works with CISA, and let CISA be the central force that carries out cyber defense within critical infrastructure in the US across the 16 different verticals. That's not the case here. Once again, the White House misses the ball. Again, 2 presidents have missed this. So there's something to be said about that. CISA, you need one central power, properly run, which it is under Jen Easterly. Very few people could disagree with that statement, and let them run the show. They're not being allowed to run the show. They're still having to go and deal with TSA and DOE regulation and all of those, while all of them could really use CISA as kind of the think tank around regulation, audit, requirements, and then let CISA be the body that enforces it. So President Biden has went ahead and said, we're going to continue their mandate. We're going to give them a little bit more power, but not enough to really do that. And really the only thing the directive does is it essentially, the new directive corresponds with the new essential reporting requirements requiring you to report a breach to CISA as well. So all we've added thus far, all of our government has done in the last 4 or 5 years, is add more bodies to report to, but very little bodies to support you. Just so you know, that's literally it. That's literally it. And for that part, Jen Easterly yesterday on the Hill meeting with Congress, talking about the Chinese threat, asking for more money. And Congress seems to be, well, let us think about it. We can give money to everyone else, but we can't give money to CISA to operate what it needs to do in order to help create more resiliency in our critical infrastructure. If you don't think this matters, oh, it sure as hell does. Very irritated by it. I read it this morning. I was looking at it last night. I was just not having it. So we'll see. And we do need to fund CISA more. We absolutely need to fund CISA more and get them more money. Some Google Chrome users are having reporting issues connecting to website servers and firewalls after the release of Chrome 124. That one has the new quantum-resistant encapsulation mechanism that's enabled by default. Google started testing this in August and has now enabled it in the latest Chrome version for all users. Apparently, it's been creating some issues with the TLS key exchange to desktop platforms. And so now they've went ahead and issued a fix for that as well. And they've also given out some more information there. And finally, 2 more stories here. The Daily News Philadelphia Inquirer revealed that their breach last year involved the personal and financial information of 25,549 individuals that still subscribe to the Philadelphia Inquirer as their newspaper. Is the largest newspaper by circulation. They've won 20 Pulitzer Prize since it was founded in 1829. It's also the longest operating daily newspaper in the U.S. So Cuba Ransomware was responsible for this one, and they've given people 2 years of credit monitoring. And then the Verizon DBIR was released late last night. The report, now in its 17th year, analyzed more than 30,000 real-world security incidents. 5 takeaways, according to the folks over at CISA Online. The move at zero-day vulnerability drove big jumps in the breaches. Ransomware and extortion attacks continue to grow. The human element still accounts for a substantial percentage of the breaches. Around 68% are human-related. Unintended errors are leading to incidents. And finally, education is improving in how people identify phishing attacks. I'm going to read the report. I haven't read it yet. I didn't have enough time this morning. But this is one thing that we'll get into on the show either tomorrow or Friday. I promise I'll be doing a special Friday episode since I missed 9 days to kind of catch y'all up. So, yep, that's it for the show this morning. We'll be back tomorrow live 9 a.m. Eastern with all the latest and greatest. Until then, have a great rest of your day, and most importantly, y'all, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.